Nothing done for God is too small. One unfortunate misperception common among lay Christians is that they are not ministers or leaders, and that their service is not as significant in advancing God's kingdom. In fact, they may even find themselves reluctant to fulfill the more routine opportunities of service simply because they seem so, unimportant. Yet, according to Pastor Moody, no work of ministry is a small thing in the eyes of God. Pastor Moody wrote, "Now, if every one of us did something every day, if it is what we call a little thing, but if it is done for the Master, mark you, it is not a little thing." He says, "Let us go to work and keep at it. Find something to do. And remember that anything you do for God should not be looked upon as insignificant work." In each one of us, he says, is doing the little thing. I'll say that again. If each one of us is doing some little thing, it isn't little in the Master's sight. If we keep at it 365 days in the year, there will be a good deal of work done at the end of the year. Pastor Moody wrote, "There are a great many different ways of doing good. A lady once visited a hospital and noticed with what pleasure the patients would smell and look at the flowers sent to them. She said, well, if I had flowers, had a bunch of flowers, if I'd known that it would have done so much good, I would have sent some from home. So as soon as she got home, she sent some flowers out of her garden. It was a little thing, a bouquet of flowers. It might be a very insignificant work, very small, but if it was done in the right spirit, God accepted it. A cup of water given in his name is accepted as given to himself. Pastor Moody writes, "Nothing that is done for God is small." Moody also said, it's when we're willing to do the little things that God entrusts us with bigger opportunities. Pastor Moody writes, "The men who have been, or women, who have been permitted to do higher things are the men or women that began with small things. If you are not willing to deal with one man about his soul and labor with that one man, you are not fit to go into the pulpit and preach to others." Some of Christ's greatest discourses were given to one person or two persons. And Pastor Moody said, "The more we use the means and opportunities we have, the more our ability and our opportunities will be increased." God will multiply your fruit. All the way to the end of his life, Moody repeatedly exhorted Christians to consecrate themselves and then concentrate in their service to the Lord. Consecrate and concentrate. That is total surrender and total focus. He called for total devotion to the task at hand, no matter how small it was. He knew that if we are faithful to consecrate and concentrate, then the Lord will take care of bringing forth the fruit of ministry. He wrote, "We will take that which is small and multiply its impact." That's a truth confirmed by his letter from Finland, which was sent to one of Moody's sons shortly after the evangelist's death. Sent to one of Moody's sons after his death. It said, "Are you aware that your father was the means of starting evangelical Christianity in Finland? From an autobiography of Reverend Eric Jansen, the apostle to Finland, I see that he, Jansen, and his wife were converted under your father, Pastor Moody's, preaching in Chicago, and were for a while active members of your father's church." He continues writing in the letter, "and that the Spirit used a remark made by your father to impress upon Mr. Jansen the duty of going home to his own kindred and his own country and tell what great things the Lord had done for him. Accordingly, he returned and has, by God's grace, made such a record as few have made since the day of the apostles. He has endured all kinds of persecution for the offense of the cross," he wrote, "and has accomplished great things for God. There are now 31 Baptist churches with 2,030 members in Finland. 245 were baptized last year," he wrote. 2 Baptist papers are published, and the beginning of a theological seminary was made some years ago." The man wrote to Pastor Moody's son, "I consider Jansen one of your father's greatest trophies, and I regret that I did not write to you about him before. I doubt whether your father himself even knew how the Lord had used him in Finland, where he has never been." That just hits me. That's like he ministered to one person. And I just want to share my thoughts on this right now. He ministered to a bunch of people. And this one guy goes back to Finland and begins 24 churches. Lee, you can go back to where we were. I'm just thinking about this. The possibilities are infinite. Let's think about this for a minute. Let's sit and pause for a minute. This guy is writing a letter to Pastor Moody's son after Pastor Moody died about a man who started 24 churches that now have 2,030 people. He said there were 245 or something people saved or baptized. And he says there's the start of a theological seminary. And he never went to Finland. He never set a foot in Finland. The possibilities are infinite. Moody never set out to be great in ministry. Rather, he chose simply to be faithful. He yielded himself completely to God, allowing the Lord to use him however he chose. We too can make that choice and allow God to work mightily through us. As Wilbur Chapman noted, quote, "The thing that made Mr. Moody great as a Christian is within the reach of every follower of Christ." Indeed, the possibilities for service are infinite, according to William Earl Dodge, who said, The great lesson in Mr. Moody's life is the infinite and magnificent possibility for service, which can come to one that puts himself absolutely in God's hands to be used. Moody shared this story in the pulpit. He said, "A little girl, only 11 years old, once came to me in a Sunday school and said, 'Won't you please pray that God will make me a winner of souls?'" Moody preached, "Oh, suppose she lives 80 years and goes on winning 4 or 5 souls every year. At the end of her journey, there will be 300 souls on the way to glory. And how long will it be that little company swells to a great army? Don't you see how that little mountain keeps swelling till it carries everything before it? Little trickling streams have run into it, till now a mighty river. It has great cities on its banks and the commerce of all nations floating on its waters." So when a single soul is won to Christ, you cannot see the result. A single one multiplies to 1,000, and that into 10,000. Perhaps 1,000,000 shall be fruit, he says. We cannot tell.